Hi everyone, and welcome to English Digest. I'm Pat.
And I'm Kat.
And we have a couple of stories from our regular News Watch article to look at today.
Yes, we do.
One of them's about junk food. What is your favorite junk food?
Mozzarella sticks.
Mozzarella sticks?
Or just like crackers with brie cheese and some other topping or something.
Cheese is a thing then?
Cheese, yeah.
Straight up ice cream for me.
Oh, yeah.
I think, yeah.
Cold Stone.
Yeah, if I wasn't able to occasionally get myself a little bit of ice cream, especially as soon as it starts getting vaguely hot outside, I'm like, oh, it must be ice cream weather.
Yeah.
It's like Taiwan is 10 months of ice cream weather, essentially.
Pretty much, yeah. Although dairy can make you feel kind of bad in the heat.
Nope, makes me feel happy all the time.
Oh, okay. If I have dairy when it's really hot out, it makes me feel kind of sick.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know why. We're talking about junk food, and we're also talking about something about fishing.
That's right. I have very little experience of fishing whatsoever.
Yeah, I've been fishing a couple of times with my father.
I've been shrimp fishing.
Oh, in Taiwan?
Yeah.
That sounds actually kind of fun.
It is pretty relaxing. Completely different to what we're looking at here. We're talking about how we can maybe fix a problem with fishing.
In commercial fishing, right?
Exactly, yeah. And we'll also go on to talk about not why junk food tastes so great, but some of the problems it can have.
Yes.
So let's read through our two articles and find out what's going on. LEDs light the way out for unwanted fish. Research from Bangor University in Wales has discovered that a simple, widely used fishing technique could be employed to significantly reduce unwanted catch. For decades, fisheries have used LED lights to lure their catch into a net in the darkness. Now, scientists have found that lighting an exit route may be the key to keeping unwanted species out of the net. The accidental capture of non-target species is known as bycatch. It's the result of an efficient but highly unselective fishing practice called trawling, in which a net is dragged through the water. This rounds up not only the desired catch, but also every other animal in its path, some of which are from endangered species. Researchers trialled attaching LED lights to exit points in a net at a scallop fishery where other fish lived. They found this reduced bycatch of haddock and flatfish by 47% and 25%. The fish could see the lights and swim free while the scallops were caught. Although LED lights could potentially keep bycatch to a minimum, other sustainable fishing practices must also be established to conserve the environment.
A week of junk food can impair brain function. Not only is junk food bad for your health, but it has now been found to impair brain function. Psychology researchers discovered that participants exposed to a diet high in saturated fat and added sugar experienced serious negative effects. These included performing worse on memory tests and an increased desire for junk food immediately after a full meal. These staggering results were observed after just 7 days of participants indulging in fast foods, such as Belgian waffles and milkshakes. These findings are consistent with prior research that showed how calorie-dense foods can alter the hippocampus, a region in the brain associated with memory and appetite regulation. One explanation could be that junk food impairs the hippocampus's ability to suppress tempting memories of food. Hence, you'll find it harder to resist chocolate cake even when you're full. This becomes a vicious cycle as the junk food people consume changes their brain chemistry, leading to even further consumption of such foods. The fact that even brief exposure to a poor diet wreaks such havoc on the brain further supports the importance of healthy eating.
Okay, then let's start with our first story, which is about LEDs and finding a way that we can catch the fish we want, but let the ones we don't want go free.
Right.
Okay, LED, of course, is a light-emitting diode. It's a kind of light technology, doesn't use as much electricity. It's got more kind of, you can turn it on and off a bit easier. It's got a few other things like that.
And I think you can find it on most electronics these days. Like you find it on computers, on your air conditioner.
But that's what we're talking about, little lights like that. So research from Bangor University in Wales, Wales, of course, one of the 4 countries that make up the United Kingdom, research there has discovered that a simple, widely used fishing technique could be employed to significantly reduce unwanted catch. So this isn't a brand new discovery using some clever new technology. No, this is just, hey, people have been fishing this way for years. If they can fish this way, maybe we can use it to something else. We already know it works in the water. We already know that the LEDs will function down there. We've already know a lot of information and data about how to attach these things to nets. So let's just repurpose it.
Yeah, exactly. So they're using it in a new way. So they say for decades, fisheries have used LED lights to lure their catch into a net in the darkness. So here we're talking about fisheries, which are places that raise fish for consumption. Like they might be in a certain part of the ocean that's sort of like closed off from the rest, or they might have their own special pools where they raise the fish, and not just fish, but any kind of seafood. Like we're talking about scallops in this. We'll learn about them a bit later, but they're not a fish. So it could be anything else that you eat as seafood as well. And then they want to lure them into the darkness using these LEDs.
Yeah, to lure something somewhere is basically, it's almost a synonym for the word tempt, T-E-M-P-T, to kind of use some kind of thing that you want to get things to come inside, basically. Like a spider will lure flies into its web. Some animals will lure other animals into a place where they can grab them. And we lure animals into traps. You know, we put in, stereotypically, cheese in a mouse trap.
Yeah.
Or something sweet in a cockroach trap. They smell it. They go, I want that. They go into the trap to get the sweet thing. And then they can't get out again. So all of this is luring people somewhere. You present something attractive and you use that as bait to get things into a trap or into a place where they don't want to be, but you need them to be.
And interestingly, the word lure also relates directly to fishing as a noun because it's a thing you put on the end of a fishing pole to lure the fish.
There you go. Nice bit of extra bonus noun there, a lure. Okay, so this is the idea that fisheries use LED lights in the dark water, either down at the bottom or at night or whatever, and the fish follow the lights and they go into the net. So, of course, if they can go in, then maybe they can go out, which is why we say now scientists have found that lighting an exit route might be the key to keeping unwanted species out of the net.
Yeah, because you don't want to get everything you could catch in a net.
Yeah, a lot of fisheries don't just have one type of creature in it, especially if it's, like Kat mentioned, an ocean one where it's just an area of sea. There could be all kinds of other animals that could come in and out. Birds can fly down in from above and get caught in nets and that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it's not like this is an area where there's the only fish that live there are the one you want. It's all a bit mixed up.
Yeah, because they have to use their space efficiently because there's so many things to catch and so many things that they need to bring to market and sell. But they don't want all of them all the time. So, talking about the species that they don't want, the accidental capture of non-target species is known as bycatch. It's the result of an efficient but highly unselective fishing practice called trawling, in which a net is dragged through the water. So bycatch is actually one of the biggest problems in commercial fishing that we have today because the way that they catch these fish, everything gets caught that's in the way of the net. And so you could get like dolphins, like Pat mentioned, you could catch birds or whales or trash.
Turtles.
I guess trash would not be bycatch.
No. Turtles.
Anything living. Yeah, turtles would. Yeah, so it's really unfortunate, and it actually can account for a really significant part of each net catch.
Yeah, and there are rules in certain countries about if you catch it, you can't always just easily throw it back. Some countries have rules about you catch it, you caught it, you got to deal with it kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. You can't litter the seafloor with dead animals. Yeah.
So bycatch is a result of an unselective fishing practice. Something that is unselective basically means it doesn't really make a distinction between any different things it picks up. It doesn't go, we want this but not this. It just goes, we'll take everything. Like if you went into a sweet shop and you just grabbed the closest 5 candy bars you saw and bought them, you would be being unselective.
Yeah, or you take a little of everything.
Exactly. You're not going around and going, I want this, it's my favorite, I want this, it looks good. You're just going, give me the 5 closest things.
Yeah.
That would be unselective. You could think of other similar examples. If you went to every restaurant you went to, you just picked the top item on the menu, that would be unselective. You're not using any kind of criteria to make this selection or judgment.
Yeah, you're just making a choice because it's there.
It's not even a choice.
It's not a choice. It's just
grab it.
Yeah, exactly. So this unselective fishing practice in particular is called trawling. And it's kind of described in the rest of the sentence when a net is dragged through the water. So I remember what they usually do is they attach weights to the bottom of the net and they attach the other side to the bottom of the boat or the front of the boat. And then they just go over the water and they just catch everything that's in the way of it. From the sea surface to the seafloor.
Yep.
It's huge.
It's efficient, obviously, but it doesn't mean you only get what you want.
Right.
So we see this rounds up not only the desired catch, so bycatch is what you don't want, catch is what you do, but also every other animal in its path, as we've been talking about, some of which are from endangered species. So what we're saying here is some of these other animals that are picked up are endangered, whether it's whales and dolphins or turtles and birds. Some of these animals that get caught in the nets are endangered, so we certainly should not be fishing for and catching them on purpose or by accident.
Yeah, exactly. So what kind of solution are they coming up with? Well, researchers trialed attaching LED lights to exit points in a net at a scallop fishery where other fish lived. So when we say the word trial as a verb, often you hear this as a noun, but we're using it as a verb here. And it means to try something out in kind of an official test. So something you might trial might be, new parts in a car. Like if you're trialing a new car, that means maybe you're giving it to a select group of testers and you're letting them try it out. It's not, a large group of testers like maybe a beta test would be, but it's, a smaller group and you're seeing how it performs. And so that's what they're doing here. They're trying to see how well it works. So they're just doing a test without, really thinking of the practical function.
Yeah, just to see as a basic, does this idea work? Yeah. If so, let's take it on to the next stage. So this was done at a scallop fishery. So a scallop, this is a common name for one of many types of clams, kind of snail-like creatures that live in shells.
Yeah.
They're usually in shells with 2 parts, so it kind of opens and closes. That is the exact word, bivalve. Now, they can actually see and they can actually swim, just not very... Yeah, but
Scallops have eyes?
They have about 200 eyes, but they don't see much detail. They just kind of pick up light or not light.
Got it.
And they can only swim a little bit at a time.
I did not know that.
No, neither did I until I was looking up what scallops were exactly.
I mean, you see them on your dinner plate and they look like kind of like white, cylindrical, like little soft things.
Yeah, they're sort of maybe the big ones are about the size of your thumb maybe. They could be a little smaller. They're quite thick.
I've seen some that are about the size of like a ping pong ball.
Yeah, you can get some quite big ones.
Yeah.
Anyway, a scallop, some kind of shellfish.
Yes.
And they've got other fish living in the same water. So what happened when they trialed this LED light idea?
They found this reduced bycatch of haddock and flatfish by 47% and 25%. So we could say that's respectively. 47% of haddock got away, 25% of flatfish got away.
Yeah, that's what happened.
Yeah. So haddock and flatfish, these are 2 other kinds of fish that you might find in fisheries because they are types of fish that we do eat. So haddock is fish that's, I guess it looks somewhat like a tuna, but it's smaller?
Yeah, it's a saltwater fish. It's
Yeah.
popular as food. It's kind of similar to cod. It's one of the fairly common ones we eat.
Yeah, exactly. And then flatfish are like, as their name says, they're flat and they live on the seafloor. Their eyes are on one side of their head.
Right.
And they're like flounders and soles
Plaice.
and halibut. My dad also always used to make the joke that you would eat it just for the halibut.
Oh, very clever.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, there are many species of flatfish, basically,
Yes.
including the ones we've mentioned. And, of course, this worked because the fish could see the light and swim free while the scallops were caught. So based on that test, we can see there are some situations where if you want to catch things that are in shells and don't move, and you don't want to catch the fish that do move and can see better, this is going to work.
Right.
They're obviously going to have to be a lot cleverer if they want to
Catch actual fish.
and catch some fish and not other fish.
Right.
So, but it is a start.
Although LED lights could potentially keep bycatch to a minimum, other sustainable fishing practices must also be established to conserve the environment. Yeah, because this will not work for everything. And it doesn't even work perfectly as it is. I mean, maybe they can improve the success rate of like letting the bycatch get away, but it's just one solution to one problem.
Yep.
And there's many more.
Yes,
Yeah.
we need more sustainable practices. Sustainable means you can basically carry it on and it's not going to have an effect, a long-term effect on the environment. Basically, whatever you take can be replaced. You're never going to run out. So we think of sustainable energy sources like wind power, solar power, those kinds of things. Stuff that should never actually run out. We'll always be able to use it, and using it doesn't take a toll on the environment in the same way that coal and gas do.
Right. Or having a sustainable lifestyle means that you try to live by using, green methods and green products.
You waste as little as possible, you use as little electricity as possible, and so on.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, we're going to take a short break now, then we'll come back for our second story.
All right, so our second story here is about junk food, like we were talking about in the beginning. So the title is A Week of Junk Food Can Impair Brain Function. That's kind of a shocker. Yeah, so impair here, if you're talking about brain function or you're talking about anything else that needs to be, working. If you impair something, it means not that you make it not work, but that you make it a little less effective. So if your judgment is impaired, maybe because you've had too much alcohol or something, that would mean you have less judgment than usual because it's been blocked or made worse by something else. That's impairment or being impaired.
Yeah.
All right, so how can junk food impair our health after just 1 week?
Well, that's the big surprising thing, the fact that it only takes a week. So we start off by saying not only is junk food bad for your health, which we kind of already know.
Yeah,
but
that's why it's called junk.
Yes, but it has now been found to impair, that word again, brain function. It'll stop your brain working so well. But how?
Right. Well, we have to find out through this research study. So psychology researchers discovered that participants exposed to a diet high in saturated fat and added sugar experience serious negative effects. All right, so we've got this study that they're doing, and they're looking at two particular variables, which are saturated fat and added sugar. And these are two things that you find in a lot of junk foods. So natural sugars might be like fruit sugars, but added sugar is usually sugar that they add when they're making it. And saturated fat is one of the quote-unquote bad kinds of fat. It's the kind you don't want, whereas other kinds of fat might be okay.
Yeah, it's the unhealthy fats. These kind of fats are usually solid at room temperature. They contain more hydrogen atoms, which affect the kind of energy that our body can use from them and how it's stored. And they basically raise blood cholesterol level. They increase the risk of heart disease and
Can't
problems.
they create arterial plaque?
Yeah, they can block your blood vessels, that kind of thing. So we obviously know this is bad for the body, but what about the brain? We experience negative effects if we eat junk food. And these include performing worse on memory tests and an increased desire for junk food immediately after a full meal. So we're not going to remember things as well, and we're especially going to go, well, I've just had a full meal, but for some reason I still want to eat some junk food. I still want something either sweet or fatty. I want an extra bowl of ice cream or some chocolate cookies or something like that.
Right.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is pretty bad, but now we get into the sort of the thing that really sort of made people go, wow, this is a big finding.
So the big thing was these staggering results were observed after just 7 days of participants indulging in fast foods such as Belgian waffles and milkshakes. I'm guessing that they probably had mostly or all fast foods for a week.
Ooh.
Which might not be a great idea in the first place, but the results, as they say, were staggering. And this is an adjective we use when we want to say that something is absolutely shocking. Your jaw hits the floor because you are so surprised and so shocked. And just your reaction is like, oh my God, I can't believe this. It's staggering.
Yeah, the verb to stagger means to kind of walk in a very impaired way, if we use that word from earlier. You can't really walk in a straight line or you might fall over. It looks as though you're basically...
Like a zombie.
Yeah, you're only just able to stop yourself from falling on your face. And so something that is staggering, if you heard it or saw it, it would kind of affect you and make you stagger around like you've just been hit on the head.
Yeah.
So we get these results after just 7 days of participants indulging in fast food. So it's amazing that just after a week, we get these effects. Only 1 week of junk food.
Ugh.
And they were indulging in junk food. If you indulge in something, you basically have that thing or you do that thing, and you kind of don't really care about the consequences. You assume that no bad is going to come from it, so you'll have as much as you want. You won't limit yourself. You'll just enjoy it, and you'll kind of ignore the fact that it might be bad for you. So we often use it about indulging in fast food, indulging in a bit of extra sleep, which may not be bad. You only indulge in something that's enjoyable.
Yeah, exactly. It's enjoyable. It's almost like a guilty pleasure.
Yes.
It could be bad for you, but it makes you feel good.
Absolutely.
That's what makes it an indulgence, which would be the noun. And so Belgian waffles and milkshakes all week. Oh, my goodness. And to think that some people eat like this all the time.
Right.
Ooh. I mean, I'm not going to judge those people, but I just really hope that they can look after their health. All right, so let's go on and find out why this is happening. These findings are consistent with prior research that showed how calorie-dense foods can alter the hippocampus, a region in the brain associated with memory and appetite regulations. All right, so first I think we should talk about what is calorie-dense. That means foods that have a lot of calories, which are the units of energy you find in foods, but they don't have a lot in terms of essential nutrients. So they won't have a lot of protein or vitamins, but they might have a lot of fat and calories. They might have like sort of empty calories.
Yeah. We think of basically junk food.
Yeah.
French fries are calorie dense. Chocolate is fairly calorie dense.
Soda.
Yeah. Anything with lots of, as we said, sugar and saturated fat.
Yes.
So prior research means people have studied this before and they have shown that these kind of foods can alter the hippocampus. And we explain this in the article. This is the part of the brain that is associated with memory and appetite regulation. We don't really know exactly which parts of the brain do which jobs and how they're all kind of connected and shared up. It's just one of those things that's hard to research, but we're fairly sure that the hippocampus is part of where memory is processed and part of where your appetite is kind of controlled and processed. And
that's its main job.
Yeah, it's the area where we think this goes on. So that's sort of why we know that junk food alters this.
So, one explanation could be that junk food impairs, there it is again, the hippocampus's ability to suppress tempting memories of food. So, it's making it harder for the hippocampus to suppress something, which means to kind of push that down or push it away. So, it's making it harder for you to forget that you've had this junk food, basically.
Or how good it is.
Yeah, it makes it harder for you to forget how good it is.
Yeah.
So it makes you less likely to eat healthy because you're like, I want that good tasting food.
We kind of demonstrate this in the next sentence, which says, hence, you'll find it harder to resist chocolate cake even when you're full, because your body won't be saying you're full, don't eat that. You'll just be saying, oh, that chocolate cake tastes so good. Give it to me with a big shovel. And we connect these two sentences together with the word hence, which kind of means the same as therefore. It's kind of saying like as a result. So you've got B and because, or you've got A and A is true, hence B is true. Or as a result, B happens. Something like that. It's a good word for connecting up and showing consequences.
Yeah, and I think we mostly use it in academic writing because it sounds a little more formal.
It is a bit more formal than like thus. Thus is okay. But
thus is a little, I don't know, I think thus sounds formal too, but that just might be me as an American.
Yeah, hence sounds quite formal.
Yeah, but sounds a little bit Shakespearean.
It's a good word to use for connecting up your ideas. Just make sure you are using it in the right way.
Right. Yeah, so you'll find it harder to resist chocolate cake. Give it to me. But this is not exactly a good thing because you can't have chocolate cake all the time. And as the next sentence explains, this becomes a vicious cycle as the junk food people consume changes their brain chemistry, leading to even further consumptions of such foods. So we've got this word vicious, but it's actually part of this idiom, vicious cycle. So first, vicious means kind of ferocious and really something that is violent and goes after you in a really aggressive way. And a vicious cycle means that there's something happening that's going around in a circle and you can't stop because the result just leads back to the cause. So the junk food you eat makes you want more junk food, and that makes you want even more junk food. It just keeps going around in a circle.
Yeah, another example of that could be, a student in the class is being bad, so the teacher punishes the student. The student feels bad about being punished and does something bad as a result, so the teacher punishes them again. And
exactly.
If you're not trying anything different to break that cycle, it gets worse and worse, and it's vicious because everybody suffers. The student, the teacher, the other students around them, the whole thing, there is no winner.
Yeah, exactly. It's one of those things in life.
A vicious cycle is the full idiom. It's good to learn.
Yes.
So the article concludes by saying the fact that even brief exposure to a poor diet wreaks such havoc on the brain further supports the importance of healthy eating. Now, I've heard wreak havoc. I've also heard wreak havoc. I've heard both pronunciations.
Yeah, I usually hear wreak.
Yeah. But basically, if you wreak havoc on something, then you cause a large amount of damage to that thing. You just cause, and it's not even targeted damage. It's indiscriminate, massive damage.
Like a typhoon.
Yeah, a typhoon would wreak havoc on a country. An earthquake would wreak havoc on a city if a lot of buildings started to fall down. So we're talking large levels of damage, large amounts of problems that affect all kinds of different areas.
Yeah.
And we're saying, just 1 week of this food can cause so many problems and damage the brain so much and stop its ability to function properly. I mean, this shows that you really need to eat healthily. You can't give in to junk food too often because it starts this vicious cycle.
Yeah, it should be a treat. It should be something that you have on special occasions or just try and regulate yourself.
Exactly.
Everything in moderation.
Indeed.
All right. We're all done.
We're at the end of our article. Thanks very much for listening, everybody. For English Digest, I'm Pat.
And I'm Kat.
Talk to you again soon. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.